Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier and this is the Piracy Show. And if you look out this window right here, we're facing towards Daymar. Now, if you know enough about Star Citizen, you know that this is actually something pretty incredible. If you could actually zoom in far enough to see the surface of that planet, you would actually see the players moving around on the surface of that planet. That's a kind of an amazing thing. Like, you would see ships going in to land where we're about to go and land, picking up cargo, doing everything. All of that stuff is happening in this one giant space, and that's kind of an amazing thing. That's a pretty amazing innovation in terms of gaming, but it's an innovation that does not come cheap. But luckily, enough people have kind of jumped on board with Star Citizen that, there seems to be plenty of money to get things done. What is it now, 170 some odd million? I kind of lost track. I'm sure a lot of people have. But it's up there. And, at some point you start to ask the question, when is enough really enough? When do they have enough to make the game? And I would guess, to be perfectly honest, I would guess that they probably have enough to make the game at this point, and anything in excess of that is probably going into some kind of a contingency fund to kind of keep the game running, just in case certain things should happen along the way. Let's say they have to confront certain realities that they never originally thought they would have to. Now, if you look at this ship here that we're flying, of course, the Caterpillar. The Caterpillar is done, is flyable, it's in the game, right? Well, not really. A lot of the Caterpillar is still missing. A lot of the functionality for the ship is still missing. And this kind of plays into the people buying more ships or new concept ships when the original ships still aren't quote-unquote finished. That's kind of a big thing, and that's always kind of an argument within the community. It's like, well, like even the Caterpillar, you're using it right now, it's not finished. It has bugs. It has incomplete components. A lot of the facilities of the ship aren't even available to play with yet. We can't change out any of the modules on the ship because there are no different modules to put onto it. And even if there were, is the functionality built into the ship currently to allow that? All these panels in the hallways, these are supposed to contain components vital to the operation of the ship, even the engines back there. But we don't really get to play with these yet, so it's pretty obvious that at some point the Caterpillar is going to have to be pulled back and to a certain degree rebuilt to add in all this functionality and then put back on the servers. Now, of course, they'll leave us with the current version in the interim, but at some point they're going to have to take the Caterpillar back and say, okay, now we got to finish the Caterpillar. So people are probably looking at the situation and kind of thinking to themselves, this is a little bit nuts. There are all these ships that aren't finished yet. There's a lot of these systems that aren't finished yet. Why are we buying more ships and just adding, kind of compounding the problem, right? Because they're going to have to do all these ships as well as all the ships that are yet to be done, plus variants. That's a huge undertaking. And the truth is, like, where we are right now in the game, a lot of these ships aren't even ironed out yet. They're not even close to what they're going to be in the final version. There's going to be a lot of iterations. Anyone who's played early access gaming or has participated in alphas or betas of other games know that things can change immensely between now and then, between the date that we supposedly get the final game delivered. Now, it's easy to see that there are a lot of things that have changed in Star Citizen since the original Kickstarter. A lot of the scope of the game has just increased exponentially. Remember, at one point, we were just going to do what we did, say, in Privateer, which is fly to this planet, get close enough, radio in, you go in for a landing at a landing site, done. But now, like, the whole planet, the whole moon, the whole nebula, it's there, it's to be explored. Those are the things that are coming. And so the scope of the game has changed. And certainly when you think about, we've had conversations about landing and the difficulties that kind of come into landing, especially on the dark side of the moon with certain cockpit views, because Some of the older ships were probably designed with an eye on we were going to have the old automated landing system and it wasn't going to be that big of a deal. But now, reality has kind of kicked in, as some people warned, and we're now faced with this issue where some ships have a lot of difficulty trying to land and have to use third person to do it because their ability to see where they're actually flying their ship isn't quite where it needs to be in order to operate that ship within its normal operational parameters. Now, add on to that the component systems within these ships. A lot of the, there's a possibility that they may go to some form of automated landing system. They may go to some form of, infrared camera that kind of puts an overlay up on the screen that lets you see the terrain, even though you can't really see it through natural eyesight. Maybe you can see it through the sensors on the ship. There's a lot of systems that they may be kind of toying around with the idea of implementing in the game. There's a lot of things that they don't know exactly how they're going to quite do yet. They're kind of experimenting with that technology, developing those systems, and then the components within our ship may play into those systems. How is that all going to work out? There's a lot of things that they still need to iron out. They may have all the puzzle pieces on the table, but they have not put them together to make a complete puzzle yet. Now, I don't work at CIG, and what little information sometimes trickles my way is generally not derived from CIG. It's in any way. It's kind of more a question of, hey, look, I got a tour at Manchester, I got a tour at LA, and I saw a few things, just on the QT. Here's some things that I saw that might be coming up soon. Occasionally I get little tip-offs like that, generally 1 to 2 every year to 6 months. It depends, it varies, sometimes more, but it's always appreciated. But I really have no idea what their approach is and what they're doing with the money that they have and how they're planning and how they're laying everything out. That's kind of a very nebulous and touchy area for a lot of people, not just CIG. So if I were to guess, if I were to sit here and put myself in their shoes and say, this is the situation that I'm in currently, like I've just been dropped into it, what would be my recommendation? What would I do? I would look at the situation with a pretty broad point of view, and I would say, okay, get core functional ships from every group, from every profession into the game. Get all these systems working. Get everything nailed down, how you want it to work, how you want these ships to be built out. Make any changes that you feel you need to make the ships operate appropriately within the universe, within the confines of what you define the balance in the game to be. Once you have all that figured out, once you have all that foundation laid, once you know what the servers can handle, what you need to do in terms of expenditure to allocate the appropriate hardware to make sure that the game is always running at a level that is better than acceptable to the community, that's always running very, very well, especially in a universe where your character can die and you can lose everything that you own. You don't want someone to say the server screwed up and I died and lost everything, because that's kind of terrible. So you have to run things a little bit better than the other guy. You have to run things a little bit cleaner than the other guy, especially when you have game systems like that in place. Once you have all that nailed down, once you have all that worked out, I would probably look at all the ships that have yet to be completed, and I would spend, if there was a contingency fund, I would spend a large amount of that money outsourcing the final builds on a lot of these ships to get a lot of them done very quickly, and then bring them back in and then do all the little touch-up work that we need to do to get them into the game. That would be kind of my strategic approach to how to handle all these ships that have yet to be built, that have yet to be, brought into the game fully functional, including the one that I'm flying right now. Now, of course, a program like that, you would have to hire a certain amount of quality control people, and the people you have currently building your ships would probably end up taking more command roles in that type of program, where they would be more overseeing the construction of various ships. You know, so let's say the LA studio might take over Drake or whatever ships that they've traditionally done, and they would be handling the people building out any of the finished ships or components of those ships. Depending on how they organize it, there would still need to be more people to kind of quality control all that work that's coming in, and occasionally redo it if it's not coming in up to snuff. But that would be like, you know, sitting here in the easy position in my beat up computer chair, guessing, wild ass guessing what CIG would do, or what I would do, or what I would propose if I was working there. That would be my guess as to how things are going to go. So when new ships come out for concept sale, yeah, you know, it's like, you guys got a lot of ships left to build, but I would probably, if I were to guess, I would say that that's probably what their plan is. And if it was their plan, I would probably communicate that loud and clear to the community. But at this point, I think the major hurdles for the game are like getting all these systems in place, seeing how they work together, and starting to get an idea of where you want to balance that at, including the flight model, which I think is going to be elusive for quite some time. It's always going to be kind of okay, but it could be a lot better. Combat, of course, needs a bit of a rethink. I think EMPs are a little too powerful right now, and frustrating to the point of making the game not fun. And obviously, in terms of graphics, the game desperately needs optimization. I guess some of that we're going to be getting in 3.1, hopefully by the end of March. But yeah, I have a feeling that that's going to be an ongoing struggle, and you probably have to nail down a few more of those things before you could really ever hope to surge and get a whole bunch of ships done, because you might end up making even more work for yourself down the road if you kind of go and you get all these ships done, you put them all in the game, then you realize, oh crap, we got to go back and we have to re-optimize all these ships using this new system that we just figured out, and then you have to go and do it again, right? And that's probably why there's a bit of a reluctance to tell us about all the different ship systems and all the different ships that they're building and what's in the pipeline and what's not in the pipeline. We have a general overview that we get, but we don't really have all the fine points, and there's probably, you know, the reluctance in dealing with that is like, hey, you know, we were working on the Banu Merchantman, but then we realized, oh, we need this ship first. Or let's say the Hammerhead. The Hammerhead's an obvious example because that thing jumped right to the head of the line. Why did it do that? Once again, wild ass guess, it's in Squadron 42. They probably put it in Squadron 42, and that's why at the concept sale we saw it at such an incredibly near finished state versus most of the other concept sales where we get JPEGs. This time we saw an actual animated firing ship, and that's a lot different, and so chances are that is something that we're going to see in Squadron 42. There's always going to be kind of like that argument. Why did this ship jump ahead of that ship? You know, I want my ship. I bought this back in 2014. It's not done yet. Rah, 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 rah. And, you know, that's a legitimate argument. But at the same time, you kind of look at the game and you say, okay, then what does this ship bring to the game? What can I infer about the development process that put this ship ahead of that ship? And those, I think, those are kind of, in a weird way, for me at least, those are kind of fun questions to ask. Is like, what does this ship represent in terms of game development? Not just in terms of gameplay, but what is this saying about the stage of the game development where they felt it was necessary to bring this ship forward? Sometimes it's for storytelling reasons, possibly like the Hammerhead, or maybe it's more about the basic core functionality of the game and what this ship brings to the table. So, you know, even when you're looking at a ship like the Banu Merchantman, you're saying like, oh shit, man, those poor bastards, man, who bought that ship, those poor bastards, they are, it feels bad. And I'm not saying that in a mocking way, you know, I'm saying like that's gotta suck. I mean, and I have to recognize the fact that, you know, where I'm in a position now where every ship that I own is apparently going to be finished, and I say that in air quotes, finished this year. I have to kind of be a little extra careful when I make statements about, oh, well, you know, they have to do this for this ship and they have to do that for that ship, because I have to recognize the fact that I'm about to cross the finish line, whereas other people might be looking at 1 year to 2 years before they've got everything they bought, possibly even longer than that. So, you know, it's always kind of a difficult topic to talk about, but in the end, if that would be my wild ass guess, that would be my wild ass guess as to what CIG's game plan is to deal with all the ships, the glut of ships that they have yet to build out and put in the game. That's, in the end, all I can say is, because it's my guess, that's what I would do if I were CIG, but that would be also what I would communicate to the fans. Like, this is how we are going to arrive at our destination. This is what we are planning to do, though we are not yet at a stage where we can implement that plan yet. There's a lot of things that we have to work out to prevent having to redo the work again and again and again to adapt the new ships to the new game systems, including the existing ships as well. And that's kind of what I would be communicating to people who are buying a new concept ship. You know, certain ships might leapfrog simply because they're needed, or for whatever reason we deem them needing to leapfrog. But in general, this is our game plan for the ship that you bought. This is the money that is set aside so that once we're at a point where we can say, okay, build this ship now, and this is exactly how it's going to work in game, then it is going to get the attention that it needs, and it's going to be done so quickly with a lot of other ships at the same time. This is how we're going to tackle that problem in the future once we're at that point. That's what I would be focusing on communicating, especially around a concept sale. But once again, that is just my guess. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.